This is an American-made documentary about the Chinese people's war of resistance against Japanese aggression. It is a heroic epic that journeys through war and time, winning the first ever Oscar for a documentary and even influencing U.S. aid policy toward China. Born in war, it was lost to time. For over 70 years, this truthful record of China's home front remained almost unknown in China until a determined group brought Kukan back from the dust of history. On June 24, 2025, the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures in Los Angeles buzzed with more activity than usual. Film experts, historians, and over 200 locals have gathered for an 80-year-old film called Kukan, The Secret of Unconquerable China. Newly restored in HD by a Chinese team, the film was making its public debut.
在中国人民抗日战争暨世界反法西斯战争胜利80周年的重要历史时刻，我们带着这部修复作品重返奥斯卡的故乡，并再次放映，不仅是一次光影的重现，更是对中美两国人民并肩抗击日本法西斯的崇高致敬。
During the screening, representatives from Chongqing presented the restored Kukan materials to the Academy Museum for permanent preservation as valuable historical records.
That is why it's with deep appreciation that I say a heartfelt thank you, which will now be permanently preserved in the Academy Film Archive. We are truly grateful to you for entrusting us with this piece of history.
It's a phenomenal restoration, and we thank you so much for it. It's just incredible.
Very good. And I know they tried it earlier and they couldn't do it, so you did get, do a better job than anything. It's there now forever.
Yes.
And then this big, to be able to see it on the big screen.
What kind of film is this? Why does it still attract intense attention more than 80 years after its release? To understand why, let's go back to an afternoon 11 years ago. Professor Zhao, long engaged in the study of China's war of resistance, received an email in July 2014 from his former professor, Ling-Ai.
他说他的一个美国朋友是一个美籍的华裔的电影制片人，叫罗宾龙。他发现了一部美国的电影纪录片叫《苦干》，里边有很多关于重庆的镜头。这个片子呢，在1942年的时候获得了奥斯卡金像奖，但是战后呢找不到了。
Professor Zhao contacted Robin Lung and arranged, who then sent 3 documentary clips on the bombing of Chongqing.
这是我第一次看到如此近距离拍摄的重庆大轰炸的影像，可以说是前所未有，令人震撼。
Zhao realized this was an extremely precious historical material, a visual treasure that China could not afford to miss.
这让我再一次感受到，历史不再是冰冷的文字，而是血肉的震颤。 如果我们不找回苦难，不留住这段历史，就会让那一代人的牺牲永远的沉默。这对于我们历史学者来讲是一种罪过。所以说，从那一刻开始，我就决定要把它引进回来。
To acquire Kukan, Joe negotiated with rights holders Robin Lung for 9 months until the film finally came to China in April 2015.
So that all China's citizens may watch and learn from it in the years to come.
A fourth-generation Chinese Hawaiian, Robin Lung had long sought her roots, even using Lung in her name to honor her Chinese heritage.
I decided to make a documentary about the Chinese woman from Hawaii named Ling-Ai because I've spent my film career trying to tell stories about people from Hawaii, and especially women from Hawaii, because a lot of our history from Hawaii is not paid attention to by mainstream media.
While researching, Robin stumbled upon Ling-Ai, who wrote a family memoir, Life is for a Long Time. The bio briefly noted Li was a co-producer of the Oscar-winning documentary Kukan on China's resistance war. That brief mention sparked Robin's deep curiosity. Little did she know it would begin an 8-year quest.
She had produced an Academy Award-winning film called Kukan, and I had never heard of Kukan, and I had also really never really heard about Ling-Ai until I started reading this memoir. So I started researching more about her, and she was a very fascinating woman. And I started meeting some of her family, and she just became more and more and more interesting to me. The film Kukan was produced also by a Caucasian man named Ray Scott, and he's the one who got the Academy Award.
However, this award-winning documentary was listed as a lost film in the Academy's archives with only written records and no preserved point.
Every other film that's won an Academy Award in the documentary category, there are good copies. They're either preserved or in good shape, and Kukan is the only one that's in such, poor shape.
Film historian Ed Carter was likely the only other person seeking Kukan. Sometimes efforts fail where chance succeeds. Years later, Robin Lung family found Ray Scott's son, Mark.
I wanted to ask you quickly, have you seen the film?
Yeah.
So when I would be watching it might have been 1965, so we're talking 25 years after the film came out. And so as a little kid, you didn't know much about the war back then. You knew it existed, but I had all these clippings with all these people that I didn't even know who they were, talking about it. And so New York, the New York Times, and, doing, so all of that. And again, the president, things like that. So I knew it was meaningful and significant.
In the Scott's basement, Robin Lung found the rare copy of Kukan. Now moldy and damaged with age, hidden for decades, the film finally saw daylight, and all its light and dust, forged in war, breathed again.
The world expected easy conquest and defeat, but many bitter years have passed and China still fights on. The whole world wonders what makes this miracle. What is the secret of unconquerable China? That is the question Ray Scott, young American correspondent and cameraman, determined to answer.
Kukan is a color documentary on China's war of resistance, filmed from 1939 to 1940. Ray Scott traveled through Hong Kong, Guangdong, Haiphong, Vietnam, Guangxi, Guizhou, Chongqing, Chengdu, Gansu, and Qinghai, capturing panoramic footage of China's home front during the war. The renowned writer Lin Yutong wrote the foreword for the film. Centuries ago, as protection against invasion, China built a Great Wall, 10,000 li around her borders. Today, an invader has pierced that wall of stone only to be confronted by a new Great Wall. The indomitable spirit, courage, and quiet heroism of the Chinese people. Kukan is a living record of their determined struggle, the stone-by-stone creation of the new China. Although brief, Mr. Lin Yutong forward was a most conscious answer to the secret of unconquerable China. Here is Scott's footage of Guangdong guerrillas. In a propaganda poster, a rural woman tells her husband, "Take the gun, I'll keep the hoe." Farmers, shop workers, men and women all answered the call to arms. On a hillside, simply dressed fighters test blades, chat, patrol fields, or sail rivers. Girls join Red Cross units, watching for strangers.
Bands of guerrillas like these are to be found all over China, even behind the enemy's lines, raiding garrisons, blockading roads, blowing up bridges, harassing the Japanese with lightning thrusts. They strike hard and fast, withdraw quickly, then strike again.
这是迄今为止都非常罕见的一段关于抗日游击队的真实影像。Scott 在苦干的解说词当中也有说到，中国的抗日战争是一场人民战争，举国上下全民皆兵，这是中国能够持续抗战的第一个秘密所在。
Leaving Guangdong, Scott headed to Haiphong, Vietnam. He joined a convoy trucking supplies north towards China's wartime capital, Chongqing, witnessing the mobile Great War of flesh and blood along the way.
1 million workers, men, women, and even children, literally tore away whole mountainsides with their bare hands and primitive tools. American engineers had said it would take 7 years to build this road with the best of modern machinery. The Chinese, without any machinery at all, was completed and trucks rolling over it in less than 14 months.
Scott's convoy crawled through winding mountain roads along the Burma and Sichuan-Guizhou highway. Under constant Japanese bombing, Scott called this route a symbol of China's unconquerable resistance. During the war, over 3,200 Nanyang volunteer drivers and mechanics returned to transport supplies on these roads, and their efforts were captured in the film.
那是我的公公方俊期，他是新加坡的华侨。
Fan Junqing, from the 5th Group of Nanyang Volunteers, sailed from Singapore in 1939 and entered China via Haiphong and Guangxi on the same route as Scott.
轰炸是经常的事情，经常遇到轰炸，而且经常还要晚上开，经常有翻车的事件。这个他的那个脚杆上都还有子弹。军事委员会战时运输管理局给机工们发了一个证明书，上面写的是只证明方俊卿于抗战期间由南洋回国，在公路运输服务颇具勤劳此证。
当时他家里面呢，只有他一个独生子女，他家里面的啥子橡胶林呐，他还有些股票，当时出来的时候那些东西都等于都舍去了。 都为了帮助那个抗日战争。
Over 3,200 Nanyang volunteers returned to China, mostly in their early 20s. They left comfortable lives behind, and many stayed on, this land of blood and fire, never to see their parents again. In Kukan, Scott stated that trucks on the road were ideal targets for Japanese bombers. A single raid could claim 50 to 100 trucks, with just 8 to 10 remaining. When the sea and land routes were cut off by the Japanese forces, the Burma and Sichuan-Guizhou roads became China's lifeline, carrying nearly all foreign aid. From 1939 to 1942, Nanyang volunteer mechanics transported 500,000 tons of military supplies, over 15,000 vehicles, and countless civilian goods on these roads. More than 1,000 volunteers lost their lives, 1 per kilometer, making it a true lifeline of resistance built with blood. Passing through Guiyang, Scott met Red Cross ambulances. The head of the Medical Relief Corps was Dr. Robert Lim, a Singaporean Chinese.
我们看到斯科特拍摄到林可胜医生，我们也是非常惊喜的。林可胜医生呢，他是出生在新加坡，是我国近代杰出的科学家，也是现代生理学的主要奠基人，并且还规划了我国的军医培养系统。在全面抗战爆发之后，林可胜医生把自己的妻子和儿女送回国，投身到了抗战救护的事业当中。
Who almost single-handed is training China's desperately needed medical corps. Before the war, China had a bare 2,000 doctors, the equivalent of 1 doctor for every 250,000 people. World-renowned physician and surgeon Robert Lim, on the right, is but one of China's distinguished sons who has sacrificed a personal career in the cause of freedom.
Over 80 years have quietly passed. The road Scott once traveled now form a historical link between the past struggles and the present prosperity. They continue onward as a new international land-sea trade corridor, crossing mountains and connecting the world.
Chongqing at last.
Heading north, the convoy moved towards the destination where countless supplies converge, Chongqing.
Chongqing at last, nerve center of China at war. A city built on the cliffs and hills at the juncture of the Jialing and Yangtze rivers. Easy to locate from the air, easy to bomb.
我们今天站在一棵树所看到的这个视角，与斯科特当年拍的这个视角几乎是完全一样的。在画面里，我们可以看到重庆主城最西边的那道最高的中梁山山脉。
Over 80 years later, Chongqing is still the city built on cliffs and hills that Scott described. Retracing Scott's route is like meeting history. The Haitang-Shi bus station captured by Scott's lens remains in use until the 1990s.
海棠溪就是川黔公路的0公里。斯科特到达重庆之后，就在这里上船过江进城了。
In 1938, Chongqing launched its first ferry service, linking Chuchimen to Haitang-Shi across the Yangtze. The ferries plied the river's swift currents, witnessing both the war and the city's prosperity along the shores.
Now legend says 300 steps lead up to Chongqing, so I counted them. There were actually 340. Perhaps I should have carried the pony.
As the city built on steps, Its people left traces of time on these stone flights by constantly climbing its slopes and stairs. Scott described Chongqing as a city both traditional and modern, where modern buildings, public facilities, and automobiles were commonplace. The Sino-American-oriented bank and Bank of Communications he filmed still stand well preserved. This street was Chongqing's first financial hub, and 80 years later, it remains one of its most vibrant areas. Mountains in the city in the mountains. Chongqing's unique landscape formed a natural shield against Japanese bombings.
Its hills and cliffs provide Chongqing with a perfect site for air raid shelters, and quite literally, the city is dug in for the duration. Day and night, laborers are busy building new dugouts, enlarging old ones.
Time correspondents Theodore H. White and Annalie Jacoby were also in Chongqing then. They wrote about the shelters in their book, Thunder Out of China. Chongqing is built on steep cliffs. They carve into the rock, making roads and tunnels, some over a mile long. Digging shelters became a key trade. These cliffs form some of the world's strongest air raid caves.
里兹坝轻轨穿楼是我们现在游客非常喜欢的网红打卡点，在它的山体下方有大量的民用防空洞，从里兹坝到化龙桥片区有35座防空洞。
Once life-saving bunkers, these shelters are now part of the city life. Some house lively hot pot restaurants, others quiet wine cellars aging fine wines. Also, libraries, cafes, modern art galleries, and back basket markets. From wartime barriers to stages of life, these air raid shelters continue to embody the resilience and vitality of the people of Chongqing in new ways.
这就是一模一样的角度。当年斯科特就是站在我们这个位置拍摄的河对岸的美国大使馆，在他拍摄的画面里，居然有3栋历史建筑穿越了80多年的历史风云，奇迹般的遗存到了今天。
The staff of the embassy. The man giving me a light is the former United States Ambassador to China, Nelson Trusler Johnson.
斯科特他们当年就坐在这个台阶上。1940年，这里是美国大使馆的办公驻地，现在这是社会主义学院的2号楼，保存得非常完好。
After the national government relocated to Chongqing, the city became China's wartime capital and the political, military, economic, and cultural hub of the Rear Area. To crush the Chinese people will to resist. Japanese forces launched a horrific, indiscriminate bombings on the city, bombing both military and non-military targets and bringing devastating damage. It was right beside this building that Scott filmed one of those intense bombing raids at noon on August 19, 1940. During the hottest time of the year, air raid sirens blared across the city.
美国大使馆附近就有一个警报台，那警报台呀，它叫龙母号信号警报台。那警报台就在东直门长江大桥那个附近，南桥的附近。因为那个地形比较高，警报台一响起，拉响的时候啊，渝中区啊、龙母号的人都能远远的望到它。
A map-titled distribution of the first signal ball warning stations in Chongqing show that in April 1940, the Chongqing Air Defense Command established the first alert station at 10 elevated locations across the city.
There, the first lantern is raised. This is the warning for which the people wait. The raiders have set their deadly course. They've taken off from Hunkau, 2 hours' flight away. The atmosphere grows tense. People hurry to their homes, their families. Ready now for the second lantern, the final warning. The pitifully small force of Chinese fighter planes takes off. The chances of these fighters are 1 in 1,000, and they know it. The 2 lanterns are up. The raiders are now at Sichuan. They'll roar over Chongqing within the hour.
轰炸重庆的日机呢，主要来自于2个方向，3个机场和5条相对固定的线路。2个方向呢是指北边的山西，东边的湖北。3个机场呢是指山西的运城机场、湖北的宜昌机场和汉口机场。
The bombing raid struck. The city became a sea of fire. From the U.S. Embassy on the South Bank, Scott captured extremely rare footage documenting the August 1920-1940 Japanese bombing of Chongqing in its entirety. Unlike earlier recordings, mostly from bomber perspectives, this was the first complete ground-level record, low-angle and eye-level shots taken at great personal risks. Within 48 hours, Japanese bombers flew nearly 400 sorties in 3 waves, destroying 90% of the homes, businesses, and city infrastructure. This footage is conclusive evidence.
“这就是一个日军当年轰炸留下的弹坑。你看，它比一个篮球场还要大。日军当年使用的航空炸弹，差不多有1个人那么高，重200斤，有50斤的炸药，能够直接摧毁一栋2层楼的楼房。我们在苦干的纪录片里还看到，整个城市硝烟弥漫，他们还大量使用了燃烧弹、硫磺弹。”
At the Chongqing Three Gorge Museum rests a rusty piece of shrapnel donated by resident Shi Gengpei as a war relic. When the enemy planes bombed Chongqing, all 18 members of my family tragically died. Handing their remains, I uncovered this blood-stained shrapnel. I wish to donate it to the museum as a memorial for future generations, so this tragedy is never forgotten. Another resident, Chen Guifeng, also carries such a fragment, except hers is still lodged in her skull today.
我没看到过这飞机啊，我都跑去看飞机，跑去看飞机啊，结果呀，我妈呀，就把我一早就拉进来，趁他怀着哈，结果那个炸弹已经都丢下来了，丢下来了，那个像落雨一样那个丢，哎呀，多得很，硬是这炸弹丢下来了，我那时候一下都着了啊，我和我妈，我呀就是撑在他身上的，撑在身上的，我妈呀就从那个大片呐，那个弹片呐，从那里滑下去，肠子都看得到了，我呀都到处都受了伤。那个手的话都砍了，弹片呢都从那里穿进去了。现在弹片还在那半边，经常痛。这码死了，我自己就没得办法的。我那里想起的话，我那辈子啷个办呢？我说，我那辈子哪个来？哪个我吃了我穿了我说。家破有人亡，河边的队伍上那全是血。5354819叫这么大絮道，全是宝血东中王。 多悲伤。
Scott observed that during air raids, Chongqing firefighters did not take cover but stayed at their posts. The fire station he filmed still stands today after 80 years at Luan Temple in the Yuzhong district, guarding the mountain city safety. From February 1938 to December 1944, the bombing of Chongqing lasted 6 years and 10 months. Its duration, scale, and devastation were unprecedented in World War II and human warfare history.
As the last waves of bombers leave, the Yangtze flows past a city stunned into complete silence. Great pillars of smoke rise from the gaping craters below, as though old Chongqing were reaching into the sky the fingers of hands upstretched for mercy. Someone should cry aloud to the invader. It is to reach the living, to have them cry out for mercy, that you kill and destroy. Look, is there terror here? Is there supplication? Hurt, pain, sorrow, yes, but not defeat. And for you, invader, no achievement but the hate of the world.
Facing relentless Japanese bombing, the Xinhua Daily declared in a famous editorial, "We will never yield to the enemy's brutality. Their planes may destroy our cities, our bodies, and our properties, but never our resolve to resist. No force can shake our faith in ultimate victory." During the foggy season, from September to April, Japanese raids halted. Chongqing used this period to clear rubble and rebuild, only to face bombing again after the fog lifted. Thus, the city ran in two cycles, half resisting, half renewing, growing stronger despite the bombings. In Kukan, Scott filmed steel mills relocated to Chongqing to forge weapons. In 1938, an industrial exodus dubbed the Eastern Gun Dirt unfolded along the Yangtze. Critical machinery from Hanyang Ironworks was moved 1,200 kilometers through the Three Gorge under constant bombing, finally reassembling in Daduko by June 1938.
90% of their factories destroyed or taken over by the invaders, the Chinese moved more than 130,000 tons of factory equipment, carried on the backs of men or hauled in junks up the swiftly flowing Yangtze. Whole factories were reassembled 1,000, 1,500 miles into the west and are in operation today. Just another secret of China's resistance.
Relentless bombings didn't break Chongqing citizens. Instead, they strengthened their unity. Major factories and institutions moved underground. The city's arsenal kept producing under fire, crucially supporting China's war effort against Japan. The song of the 21st Arsenal echoed through the war. As the largest arsenal in wartime China, it produced over half of the country's bullets, steadily shipped to the front, forging a steel line of defense. 80 years later, this former military site now leads China's new energy vehicle industry, writing a new chapter in Chinese manufacturing. Amid the ruins, machines roared and students read aloud, strong as a rock, growing fiercer under fire. This is Chongqing. Leaving Chongqing, Scott journeyed on, capturing the land, mountains, rivers, and its people in their truest form on film.
Scott 本人呢，在利用去中国拍摄这个纪录片的同时呢，也受了委托，得到国民政府的允许，带回了一只熊猫，叫美兰，运送到芝加哥的动物园里面去饲养。在那个时候是非常珍贵的一个礼物啊。
Scott's journey stretched thousands of miles into northwest China, following the Soviet aid supply route, a path he called the Burma Road of the Northwest.
A camel caravan approaches Lanzhou, loaded with munitions from the Soviet. More than 20,000 of these ships of the desert and thousands of pony carts carry commerce between China and Russia. The end of a journey, thousands of miles over mountain trails and dreary wastes, through outer Mongolia and across the steppes of Siberia, bringing great stores of oil and gasoline from the land of the Soviet.
The journey was filled with challenges. Mudslides from storms blocked the roads while workers raced to clear it. He crossed suspension bridges between Gansu and Qinghai, saw trucks ferried across rushing rivers, and rode traditional sheepskin rafts over the Yellow River. Scott's lens also captured vivid scenes of the nation's resistance. A Tibetan team marching to the front, Muslim soldiers weaving ropes and crafting gear, Boy Scouts training hard, and artisans producing military supplies, using traditional skills to make saddles and cloth on ancient looms. Water wheels turned slowly by the river, grinding grain into flour while women cooked over fires.
A war is fought not alone by men with guns, but by far more men behind the lines who supply the guns, the food, the 1,001 items which an army needs. From these peoples, far removed from the fighting front, come the workers and the craftsmen, men and women alike, who are recruited to perform the endless tasks of China at war.
As Lin Yo-tang noted, China still had its Great Wall. This wall was the flesh and blood wall of the Guangdong anti-Japanese guerrilla forces. The mobile wall of sacrifice on the Sichuan, Guizhou, and Burma roads, the unyielding urban wall of Chongqing cliffs, the cultural wall of enduring spirits in the southwest, the united ethnic wall of the northwest, the industrial wall of the rear area production, and the resilient wall of courage that grew stronger under fire. In Kukan, wherever the camera turned, there too was the wall.
Throughout the length and breadth of this land, we have seen that out of which China builds the miracle of her resistance. That is Kukan, the bitter struggle, born of a spirit and a soul and a faith that are immortal.
Raised in Hawaii, Robert Lung never imagined that the film Kukan would connect her so profoundly to her ancestral homeland. The land she saw as her roots turned out to be steeped in such profoundly heavy layers of history. But how was this great work filmed? Why was it lost? What kind of people were the creators, Ling-Ai and Ray Scott? Robert Lung spent 8 years searching for answers to these very questions.
Ling-Ai always called herself the co-producer of Kukan, even though she was officially only credited as a technical advisor. And after all the research I did, I do believe that she is accurate She really was the co-producer of Kukan. And the reason why I say that is because she instigated the project. She's the one who encouraged Ray Scott, the cameraman, to go to China the very first time.
Ling-Ai was born in 1908 into a progressive Chinese family in Hawaii, the sixth of 9 children. Her parents, Michi Hui and Jiang Di Xiang, both medical graduates, moved from Hong Kong to Hawaii in 1986. There, they pioneered the first Chinese-run Western clinic, church, newspaper, and Chinese school in the local community. Independence and responsibility were cardinal lessons for the Lee family children from a young age.
While she was being raised, they taught her to be independent and to believe in what you feel is good, correct. And they were the same. Like, even though people were against them, if they felt something was right, they would do it. I mean, they would go for it. He would get it. He wouldn't sit back. He would express himself.
A woman of many talents, Ling-Ai was a skilled writer, stage performer, and once a student of the Mei Lianfeng in Beijing Opera. In 1937, when Japan launched an all-out invasion of China, a sensational news story broke in Hawaii. A young Chinese woman was trained as a pilot to fly to China and aid the resistance. That woman was Ling-Ai.
I wanted to help the China relief. Nobody helped China those days to get money for medical supplies. And I went back to Hawaii and I took a flying course, fly two-seater plane. If I need to fly medical supplies someday, I would be able to volunteer my services.
夏威夷本身它就是一个多元化、多种文化汇集的一个非常特别的地方。美国的文化给了李玲爱热情奔放的性格和敢说敢干的特点，中国文化给了他责任和担当。他是把两种文化融合在他自己的身上。
Instead of flying to the front, Ling-Ai chose to support the war effort another way by making a documentary to voice China's resistance. Then she met journalist Ray Scott, a freelancer writing for the London Daily Telegraph and Life magazine. Though without film experience, he was adventurous and accepted the challenge. Between 1937 and 1940, Scott risked 4 trips to China. With a 16mm camera and advanced color film, he documented both daily life and resistance against Japanese forces.
He's shooting it. He might not know what he captured and what he didn't. Whether it was in focus, whether the color worked, he just films and films.
Film.
You know, you've got hot temperatures, you just out in the middle of nowhere. Where does he stay? Sure, they didn't have hotels and taxis and airplanes. And yet he traveled, you know, a long way and did it multiple times. So it's just kind of like all these things that that's not in the film, or it's not really talked about how he, you know, made it happen.
Here all foreigners are suspect. I was twice arrested for taking pictures, and even these shots of American trucks had to be smuggled out of the country.
因为当时他这个胶卷要带出境是很困难的，他就想了一个办法，然后就把这个胶卷放在竹竿里边，最后就蒙混过了这个日本兵的这个检查，顺利的来到美国。
Scott's journey in China was difficult, but he was supported not only by Ling-Ai's funding, but also by her entire family, especially her sister, Dr. Elizabeth Lee. After the war broke out, Dr. Lee joined a Red Cross hospital to treat wounded Chinese soldiers. In February 1939, Scott gave an interview describing what he witnessed at the Red Cross hospital in Nanjing. This was the largest Red Cross hospital in the world, yet it had only 5 or 6 doctors and 2 trained nurses. Scott said for the first 2 weeks, besides Dr. Ettinger, only Dr. Lee knew how to give anesthetics. She gave up to 100 anesthetics a day.
But by the time the Japanese invaded, only 10 doctors were left. She was one of them who stayed. And when they couldn't stay anymore, she left.
Scott said Dr. Lee postponed her departure until the 11th hour of the eve of the fall of that city, and then she boarded a Yangtze River craft carrying some 3,000 wounded Chinese soldiers. She was the only doctor on the boat. A deep belief in serving both family and country ran in Ling-Ai's blood. During the war, she and her family supported the resistance in practical ways and used their connection in China to help Scott film the documentary.
But Confucius said long ago that you cannot change the world by a big idea, but you can change it one by one. And I'm going to change it one by one because the other side of me Chinese.
On June 23, 1941, Kukan premiered at the World Theater in New York City and immediately caused a sensation.
And then it was shown on Broadway. There was a 200-feet picture on the Paramount Theater. A Chinese stretching up to heaven, Kukan, heroic courage under bitter suffering. That was my theme, Kukan, heroic courage under bitter suffering.
40年代是美国电影的黄金时代，所以电影是一种非常有力的、很有力量的一种工具，也是一种意识形态的一种 education， 就是一种教育有教育的意义。所以当时这种片子能够在美国公演，而且第一次就演了12个星期，这种长时间覆盖面那么大的这种宣传，就改变了中国和中国人民在美国人心中的形象。
Later, Kukan was also screened in Canada and the United Kingdom. Time noted, the obstinate, primitive, multi-million man power that is performing this heroic transformation is Kukan's theme. The Los Angeles Times wrote, "The whole adds up to not only a highly courageous, unified spirit of resolution and resistance, but to an organization of the huge country, its activities to carry out this resistance that is amazing." The New York Times published a lengthy review and initiated a donation drive. Most striking of all is the realization that the struggle for freedom knows no geographic boundaries and has no ethnic frontier. In February of 1942, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences created the Documentary Award category and presented an honorary award to Ray Scott for Kukan.
So the award is for distinctive achievement to Ray Scott for the extraordinary achievement in producing Kukan, the film record of Chinese struggle, including its photography with a 16mm camera under the most difficult and dangerous conditions.
I think you will permit me to say it is particularly appropriate at this hour when China stands as a great image of the steadfast and long persisting courage we all need for this war.
That same year, as Britain endured the Blitz, which killed 43,000 civilians, cities like London and Chongqing shared tragic parallels under fascist bombing. The US began aiding Britain and forming the Anti-Fascist Alliance as the war expanded into 3 major theaters: Europe, North Africa, and Asia.
在亚洲战场，中国抗击着日军78%的陆军总兵力 和大量的空军，为美国在太平洋上构建起防御体系赢得了至关重要的时间窗口。
With the outbreak of the Pearl Harbor attack at the end of 1941, the U.S. formally declared war on Japan. It was at this turning point that Kukan revealed the fierce resilience of the Chinese battlefield, stunning the world.
一个普通妇女，她看了苦干以后，她就写了一封信，一封感想给波士顿的当地一个地方的报纸。她说：“我在这部片子里头看到的是全中国人民的全面抗战的一种英雄的行为。”她说，包括了老人、小孩、妇女、男人、士兵和平民。她说，他们都是在为自由而战。
As the film's producer and founder, Ling-Ai, didn't stop at its release, she quickly organized large fundraising campaigns to support China's resistance.
After Kukan, she raised money at the New York World's Fair with booths to raise money for medical supplies and for gasoline for the trucks. And she had parties at hotels, so a lot of things to raise money for China.
李莲爱后来就是发起了一个运动，她就是给那个援华会做宣传、做募捐。她用的口号就是 "A bowl of rice"， 我们就是为了生存嘛。我们不讲那些高大上的口号啊、大道理，这种人性之间的交流和感动。 他的这个中国不可战胜的秘密，他们一直都认为，就是因为全中国人民，特别是普通劳动人民，任劳任怨的为抗战做贡献。
Kukan's influence reached both the American public and the highest levels of U.S. power. Even before its public premiere, the team brought it to the White House. On January 1st, 1941, their names were noted on the White House calendar. That day, Lee and Scott were invited to screen Kukan for President Roosevelt.
电影的放映时长从20分钟一直延长到了2个小时。总统夫人在第2天个人报纸专栏当中专门记录了她对苦干的观后感，其中特别提到了重庆大轰炸的画面。
In April 1941, Roosevelt signed an order allowing reservists to serve as civilians. That August, the American Volunteer Group, with 110 pilots and 150 ground crews, was formed. Notable for its shark-mouthed nose art, to the Chinese they were known as the Flying Tigers. On June 23, 2025, Mel McMullen celebrated his 100th birthday at the Los Angeles Veterans Center. His home is filled with Chinese memorabilia reflecting his deep bond with China.
I went in when I was 17, where I was in the 14th Air Force 308 Bomb Group, Heavy Bomb Group, a nose turret gunner, assistant engineer.
Little did the young gunner know that he would enter the main Eastern theater of the World Anti-Fascist War, and that the 14th Air Force he was joining would bring him lifelong Flying Tiger bonds. The Flying Tigers founder Major General Chenault wrote about forming the group in his memoirs. China urgently needed fighters, first to break Japan's air control over Chongqing, then to protect the supply flow along the Burma Road. The Japanese massed forces to bomb Chongqing. By destroying their support, I aimed to strike a blow to their entire bombing strategy in China. Before the Flying Tigers arrived, China's Air Force fought with outdated planes, brave but costly. American reporter Agnes Smedley wrote in Battle Hymn of China. When I first came up to 24 Chinese fighter intercepted bombers, their numbers dwindled over time. Once I saw a lone plane chasing bombers upriver, I longed to write an ode to that lone plane. The Air Force War Memorial atop Chongqing's Nanshan Mountain honors those who fell, among them, Zhong rests in peace here.
我母亲呢，就天天就牵着我就看空战，因为啥子原因呢？因为他有一个儿子，就是我的二哥，他在当时就在保卫重庆领空。
Ancient trees tower the grassy lands. The sky above was the battlefield. Zhong Jikai's plane was hit by 99 bullets and a cannon shell, yet he shot down 6 enemy aircraft. In 1943, he was pursued by 4 enemy planes during a return mission and fell in combat.
就问他，你还有啥子希望没呢？还有啥要求？他说我还有个要求，我这儿子牺牲了，我还有个小儿子叫周志新，我就叫周志新，就把他送到空军幼年学校去。
Hearts forge, stars witness. Aiming for the skies, Sun Yat-sen's century-old dream of saving the nation through aviation has now become a reality. Standing under peaceful skies and gazing up at the once war-torn heavens, the hero's cries and dreams still echo. On May 3, 1939, as air raid sirens blared over Chongqing and Japanese bombers pressed in like storm clouds, a commander stood unwavering on the south bank of the Yangtze. Binoculars in hand, calmly tracking the enemy formation, that commander was Chenault. 27 fighters flew in, a tight V formation. Over the target area, they rocked their wings, quickly aligned side by side, and released hundreds of gleaming bombs. The mountain city became a raging sea of flames, burning for 3 days and nights. After the establishment of the Flying Tigers, Chenault developed effective tactics to counter the Japanese Air Force.
陈纳德发明的这个战术啊，它是采取从高空俯冲下来，然后迅速的射击，然后迅速的就脱离，这个就叫陈纳德的空中游击战术。
As Chongqing grew into a wartime political hub and drew global attention, many foreign reporters were based there. One afternoon in June of 1942, American journalist Graham Peck was working on a report in the Jiangbei Hotel where he suddenly heard aircraft overhead. A dozen planes appeared from downstream, right where the Jialing meets the Yangtze. As the formation passed his hotel, it climbed sharply. They were American P-40s marked with the Flying Tiger shark teeth. Graham Peck captured the Flying Tigers aerial show, staged to deter the Japanese. That day, the whole city was filled with a rare joy, not seen since the war began.
在此之后，日机随意出入重庆以及大后方的城镇，并且肆无忌惮地轰炸这些城镇的局面得到了扭转和遏制。
In 1942, General Joseph Stilwell, dispatched by President Roosevelt to Chongqing, assumed the roles of the Chief of Staff of the Allied China Theater Headquarters and Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. forces in the China-Burma-India Theater, and fought side by side with the Chinese people against Japanese fascism. To break the Japanese blockade, pushed forward by Stilwell, Allied forces of China and the United States opened the Hump airlift route.
One of our biggest enemies was not a Japanese machine gunner coming to us. It was the long trips over the mountain called the Himalayas.
Himalaya, the hump.
Over the hump. The story goes, but it's true. You could actually follow the trail from India to China, China to India, just by flying over the hump and having the moon or the sun reflection against all the planes that didn't make it. We had one time we had a flight, and our engine was almost out of gasoline, but more than that, we had an engine problem. We found the airport We flew in, our engine stopped.
Like an emergency landing.
As we were on the ground,
Wow.
our engines died from lack of gasoline. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
perfect timing.
Yes, very good timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing, yes.
From December 18, 1941 to victory in August of 1945, Chinese and American aviators shot down over 1,200 Japanese aircraft, with more than 1,500 volunteers giving their lives. In 2014, among China's first list of 300 famous heroes and heroic group of the War of Resistance was American pilot William Reed, commander of the 3rd Fighter Squadron, Chinese-American composite wing, who died in Japan's last major bombing of Chongqing on December 19, 1944.
在1944年的12月19号，他率队执行飞往前线作战任务之后，在返回凉山的途中刚好就遭遇了日机对机场的轰炸，他的飞机没有办法降下去，最后就跳伞，在跳伞的过程中他不幸殉难了，成为飞虎队在中国抗日战争时期牺牲的最高级别的飞行员。
The two pilots who jumped with Reed successfully landed and were rescued by local villagers. Such stories were also firmly remembered by Mel McMullen.
If they were caught saving an American pilot by the Japanese, would punish them, sometimes punish the whole village. Even though they were endangering themselves, many stories we've heard about finding a village, bailing out, knowing that the villager or the farmer would move them, hide them in the daytime, move them from village to village at night until they could be picked up by the Americans.
Oh.
So we had a great respect for the Chinese people.
Amid the chaos of war, Chinese civilians courageously protected these foreign pilots through simple yet profound acts of goodwill, forging and ending Sino-American friendship tempered in blood and fire. The remarkable years he flew in China's skies over 7 decades ago remain the proudest glory of the old man's life. Today, as a bridge of Sino-American friendship, he has won the highest respect of Chinese people. In May 1944, President Roosevelt sent Vice President Harry A. Wallace to Chongqing to deliver a special document. In the name of the people of the United States of America, I present this scroll to the city of Chongqing as a symbol of our admiration for its brave men, women, and children under blasts of terror from the air. Even in the days before the world at large had known this horror, Chongqing and its people held out firm and unconquered. They proved gloriously that terrorism cannot destroy the spirit of the people determined to be free. Their fidelity to the cause of freedom will inspire the hearts of all future generations. On May 17, 1944, Roosevelt. The president's words carried unusual emotion, likely rooted in the powerful images he saw 4 years earlier in Kukan. The film became a bridge between China and the U.S. in the World Anti-Fascist War. China's resilience and courage during the war won international respect, gaining more support and aid. Kukan had fulfilled its mission. Ling-Ai had finally achieved her wish. Ray Scott passed away in 1992 at the age of 87. Ling-Ai passed away in New York in 2003 at the age of 95. However, the story of Kukan didn't end. Since its acquisition by a Chinese team in 2015, the work of restoring the film, translation, and historical research has never stopped. In 2025, a team in Chongqing officially began restoring Kukan's footage. The project team gathered damaged segments from 3 versions of Kukan, piecing and restoring them faithfully.
划痕啊、脏点啊、霉斑，整个的数量都是比较大的，而且我们也能看见，就整体胶片的褪色现象也是非常的严重的。
Guided by principle of repairing the old as it was, the team combined manual and AI assistant restorations to recover the original look of this historic footage as fully as possible.
一个基本原则就是尊重原画面，尊重当年的创作者的创作思路，使原有的画面进行用现代的技术进行升分，使它更加清楚。
On June 24, 2025, the Chinese restored Kukan returned to the home of the Oscars for its first global screening in 80 years. As the meticulously restored images reappeared, what flickered in the light was not just color, but a nation's memory.
China is next door by Clipper plane.
The important point to remember about this remarkable woman is Ling-Ai was raised in America, but a child of the East. And she grew up in 2 cultures, never abandoning her Chinese roots.
And now, 85 years later, after its release, Kukan still holds a momentous place in history. But what makes it special today is how timeless it is and how timeless it feels. It's not just about war. It's not just about China. It's about people. It's about shared human experience. Families, children, resilience, and survival. Then, and that's what makes it meaningful now, to him this story mattered. The people mattered. He believed in using his camera to tell the truth. I'll get there. He believed that stories should be shared, especially when they help people see each other more clearly. On behalf of our family, thank you again.
Kukan shows is that America and China were allies during World War II. And so I think it's very valuable for both United States citizens and Chinese citizens to take a look at our history and to see that we were allies at one point and we did help each other. And we did help each other to become strong nations afterwards.
Over 80 years ago, Kukan showed the world that with passion, perseverance, and resilience, the Chinese people ensured their civilization would endure. Today, as these images return, we are reminded the friendship forged in blood remains priceless legacy across the Pacific.
片在转动，定格烽火中的城，斑驳的音响藏着呐喊的声。瓦砾堆成山，你却停止了脊梁，在断墙之上刻下不去的痕。扣击每颗心，黄果树的年轮数着倔强的唇，吊脚楼的往事在将雾里浮沉。你站在废墟 种下希望的根，让这座城市活成生命的真。未来啊，水过回响中的风，吹进前翻后，吹不散初衷。归来啊，写在皱纹里的梦，让岁月开出明天的花丛。当脚边渐暗，你化作一束光，照亮所有来路。我们